Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Tony Talks, where I have conversations with inspirational leaders, influencers, and change makers, people that aren't just doing well in life, but that are doing good in the world by giving back and contributing their time, their knowledge, and just sharing with the world to make it a better place. Today, I have the pleasure of having another friend of mine coming online. Her name is Dimple Thakrar. Dimple is a celebrity love and relationship coach. She's a dietitian. She's a speaker, best-selling author of When the Goddess Calls. And she's just an overall great, beautiful person. Let me bring her on. She's already in the green room. There she is.
Yay, hello.
Nice
How
to
are
see
you?
I'm doing great. Listen, for everyone watching, she does have a funny accent. So if you need translation, I'm here.
Yes, I do speak English.
So good to see you, Dimple. Thanks for coming on.
And you, Tony. And you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, listen, we've been talking about this for a little while. I'm glad we were finally able to get you on.
Yeah.
So again, this show, like I said, is about introducing friends of mine who've got something to share, that are making a difference, making an impact. And you're certainly making an impact in people's lives with their love life, their relationships, their marriages, and saving and helping people along the way. So I'm just excited to have you on here. We already have a few people saying hello. Liba is, she's in Iowa at the moment, and she says hello.
Hi, Liba.
So one of the things, so I like to always ask, one of the questions that I like to just ask people, just to have people understand who the guest is. Just tell us a little bit about you. You know, obviously we know that you're in England, or we don't know. We know you speak English, but obviously you're in London. But tell us a little bit about you and.
Sure. So I'm based in England. I'm based in Manchester, England, not London. There's more than one place in England. And I've been married we'll be celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary this August. And I have two beautiful daughters. And I've been coaching now for about 24 years, like that. And also a dietitian, so done many things. Really, I guess my story begins with just the craziness of being married to a serial entrepreneur and what that brings, and then becoming an entrepreneur myself, and then that transition and understanding the dilemmas and the mindset of an entrepreneur is just a whole different ballgame. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah, it is indeed. You know, entrepreneur became a buzzword, right? Everybody's an entrepreneur. Every high school kid's an entrepreneur. It's funny, you know, I remember being an entrepreneur when it was like, oh, so you're like unemployed? No. Oh, so like you work like half a day? I'm like, yeah, at 12 hours. That's about right. Half a day.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're crazy and you just love to work.
Yeah. Sometimes 16, right? But yeah, so many people got into the entrepreneurship, which I applaud, and obviously, but it's not certainly in the beginning. It's certainly not as glamorous, and it's not really glamorous. It's you're having to stand on your own and without a safety net in most cases. So the life of an entrepreneur is always very interesting. I know that that's something that you work on, is because you were married to a serial entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur yourself. You understand some of the complexity of being an entrepreneur and the impact that can have on a relationship, because so many times we're having to put so much of our time and focus on what we're trying to create, right? We're trying to create a life that we forget to live it, right? And we forget sometimes the people that we have at home that are also going through it with us. And again, you know, I like to say that I only speak of things that I'm familiar with, and boy, am I familiar with it, because I, like you, have been an entrepreneur for the last 30 years. So multiple things. Some work out, some don't. Some take a lot more time than you expect, and whatever else. And there's always stress that comes to relationships along the way, which is why I'm excited to have you on here, because there are so many people on that journey. And you know what? I told you that I was going to start recording this for Instagram, and I forgot to hit the play button. So let me just do that real quick. So talking about relationships, love, and marriage, and everything else, and the life of an entrepreneur. So with that, tell us a little bit more about what you do in that. I know that you also do celebrity love and relationships, but you also work with with entrepreneurs and business owners and executives that deal with the same thing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I got into this space of helping out executives, entrepreneurs that are married, entrepreneurs that have struggled with marriage because of the commitments of work, because of the drive to succeed. And exactly what you said, Tony, that they forget that there's people at home that are going through their own things at the same time and don't understand the drive, don't understand. And it's very much, they struggle with the balance that an entrepreneur chooses to have, or that's what it looks like to them, So some of the people that I work with are couples who have been married for a while, who are struggling, or they want to level up their marriage. They know that it's not perfect. They know that it's mediocre, and they want outstanding. So I teach them to understand the language. Wait for this. So I can speak man and I can speak woman as well, both languages. So I can translate for them, because truly the skills that we need to understand the opposite sex is not taught anywhere. Like the ABC of how to read is taught at school. The 1, 2, 3 of math is taught at school, but nobody teaches us the language of love. Nobody teaches us the difference between the way your brain's wired and the way my brain is wired. And so that's what I support people with. And I do a little bit of spiritual healing as well, thrown in for good measure. So, yeah.
Nice. So listen, one of the things that we like to do is, obviously, we like to share some strategies and some tips, because there's inevitably a lot of entrepreneurs, whether they're here at the moment or not, but that also watch these shows. Certainly, my being an entrepreneur, that that resonates with me, because again, I have been married, fortunately, for hold on, let me do the math on this, 17 years. It'll be 18 years this year, actually. Yeah, thank you. We've been together for like 24 years. Matter of fact, our one of our anniversaries, I guess we'll call it, just passed when I proposed on April Fool's Day, but that's a whole conversation for a whole nother time.
Love it. April Fools, brilliant.
Well, in case it didn't go well, I had an out,
Always a contingency plan. I like it.
You gotta be quick on your feet. So, I've been an entrepreneur for so many years, and again, there's stability, there's instability, stability, instability, stability, instability, and sometimes that shows up in your relationship and in your marriage. So, actually, so that shows up a little bit. So, actually, I just caught myself and realized that I have to slow down my speech pattern here, because communication, by the way, is everything. Yes. And being from New Jersey, I speak really fast. From Manchester, England, you speak very slow. So everyone from Manchester speaks slow, but you're soft-spoken. So I'm gonna slow it down a bit. Practice that part of it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. I'm sure that everyone on here will appreciate it as well, because like I said, I do tend to speak fast. I guess maybe it's because I always feel like I have so much to say, and I want to make sure I get it all in. So at least that's what my wife is saying all the time. She says, slow down. Okay. She's probably listening in the room.
And she's right, of course.
Of course. Yes, dear. Of course she's right. She's always right.
I'm teasing.
Well, listen, one of the things I love to talk about relationships as well. So this is going to be a fun conversation. And one of the things I say that, you've always got to laugh, right? You've got to be
Yeah.
able to laugh. You got to be able to laugh with each other, at each other, together, at things. And I say it all the time. If you're not laughing together, you'll eventually start crying apart.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
So we joke and tease all the time, and it is what it is. You got to be able to take life with a grain of salt. And if something bad happens today, don't wait. People say all the time, in 10 years we'll laugh about it. Well, God damn it, why wait? Why wait? Unfortunately, you can't laugh about it at the moment. That's, not that happens, but try to get over that as fast as possible. So
it's funny you mention it, Tony, because it's one of the things that really couples struggle with when they're going through some tough times. They forget to laugh.
Yeah.
They actually forget to laugh. So I know you were saying it in jest, but actually it's one of the key things that keeps people and keeps couples fresh and happy, and that vibration and energy of just joy and laughter is so crucial. It's one of the game changers,
Absolutely. And I wasn't saying it in jest. I really do. I use humor in my life and everything, in my relationship, in negotiation, in ice breaking, in whatever. That's just what I do. It's how I've handled stress and how I've handled pain and how I've handled a lot of struggle throughout my life, and it's worked. So I'm not going to change it. Not everybody finds me funny all the time, but that's okay. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. So Amanda asks, and this is something that we were getting into, what are some strategies that you recommend for creating better communication pattern with your partner? And that's obviously a deep topic, right? Because it's not just like, oh yeah, here's 2 or 3 things, we can whole hour on that alone. But I say all the time that communication is key. But seriously, just to just wrap up on the whole laughter thing, I think it's so important to laugh together. It's so important. Overall in life, it's important to laugh. I say all the time to my mom, which drives her crazy because she's a very religious woman. I say, Mom, I'd rather laugh with the sinners than cry with the saints. She's like, oh. I said, well, it's true, because life is too short to be crying.
Yes, that's right.
I'd rather laugh at my challenges than shy away from them and cry and be afraid of them.
And actually, laughter has been proven now to have a health benefit as well. You can actually increase your immune system because you're raising your vibration at which your cells are most of the time. So there's like yoga laughter. There's so many things out there now that encourage you to laugh. And we had, Joseph McLennan III, he tells a story about how he used to get his mum, who had been diagnosed with cancer, to laugh every day, and extended her life by 9 years. And that just, and that story sticks with me because my father's just been diagnosed with cancer. And then that story sticks with me because we laugh every day with him. We've just got him into TikTok. So he loves that. He's 75 and he loves it. He sits there laughing all day. So, we just, so it's really medicine. Laughter is really medicine for all relationships.
It really is. And just to make sure everybody's aware of it, fear and anxiety and anger do the absolute opposite. For every minute you spend in anger, anxiety, or fear, you can actually weaken your immune system 4 to 6 hours.
Yes, huge. For every minute.
So remember, even if you're having a bad day and you're stressed, you've got anxiety, you've got anger, whatever it is, before the end of the day, watch something funny that'll hopefully negate all that negative juju that you put into your body and that the harm that you're doing. Just remember to laugh. That's the most important thing. Just remember to laugh. What do they say? It only takes like 4 or 5 muscles to smile, and it takes like 12 or 13 to frown. It's actually easier to smile than it is to frown, right?
Yeah. And when we think about like children, how often do they laugh? Like babies and children, like constantly laughing at nothing. Nothing, And then we grow out of it because it's not the done thing. It's not, you know. So
Absolutely. I say it all.
definitely,
You got to be able to laugh. You got to be able to laugh at other things, situations, the problems that you have. And you got to be able to laugh at yourself. And
yeah.
as a free service, I tell people, I says, if you can't laugh at yourself, call me and I'll laugh at you.
I love it. I remember that the next time I'm having a hard time going, damn it, I should be laughing. And I'll think of you, Tony. I'll think of you, damn it. If I don't laugh, I'll have to ring him and then he'll laugh at me. No, I better laugh.
Oh, well, but it's true. That's all I've got to say about that. At some point of the day, I'm always laughing at something because life is too short. Life is too short. Life is too serious to take too seriously.
Yes.
Is essentially what it is. So,
Exactly.
and none of us are making it out of this alive. So just enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey that we're on, and listen. The journey is so much better with someone that you love and that you respect, and that you can spend the time with. Right. So, we'll use that to circle back to the topic at hand. So going back, so Amanda then says a friend was saying how he was having a lot of tension. With his wife recently, going off of laughter.
Yes.
What could something be for him to do with his wife to laugh or to connect?
Okay, beautiful question. Thank you, Amanda. So the first question that she asked was about communication and what tips we could offer for improving communication. Because here, this question is actually a result of a lack of communication, a lack of connection. And so understanding a couple of things really, that often when we communicate with our partners or our husbands or wives, spouse, whatever the word is, I prefer to say beloved, we communicate waiting to speak. So I'm talking to you now, and often what we do is you're waiting to get your message across rather than communicating the listening to learn. So what is it, the message that I'm trying to get across? Putting your agenda to one side and actually being present with that person. And it goes both ways. It kind of, men and women need to feel heard and seen. And so by having that style of actually being curious about finding out, because when we first start relationships, we're really excited and we're really curious and we're like, what is it you do? And I'm so excited to find out about you. And it's all about them. And then you get into the law of familiarity where you start getting used to each other. You get married, you have children, and you take each other for granted. And you think you know everything about them. But that person's changed and grown as you have. And when you lose curiosity for that person, they lose it for you as well. And so that's where communication breaks down. So it's that not interrupting, listening to learn, and then having a conversation where you're, wow, that's really interesting. So you're appreciating them rather than judging them, rather than expecting them to have the answer that you want. So it's being in their space. It's being in their shoes. That's one of the key points.
Yeah, listen to learn or to understand, not just to respond, which many of us do. I've been guilty of that at times. I'm guilty of that a lot. But it's a conscious decision to think about what it is that you want and how you want it to be. And things do take effort. They take work, but it's worth it if you want. If you want it to work out, then you've got to do what you need to do. You don't do it. I think Les Brown says, do it as hard and life becomes easy.
Yes.
Do it easy and life will be hard. Or rather, it's the other way around. Do it as easy and life will be hard. Do it as hard and life will be easy.
That's
Did I
right.
say that right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
You did. So it's about putting the effort in. It's about putting the effort in up front. And it's interesting, marriage and relationships is the one partnership in life that we don't spend time learning about, strategizing, agreement formation. Like if you go into business with somebody, you would have a whole like terms and conditions, partnership agreement. You'd have a conversation about your beliefs and values, whether you're aligned or not. And we don't do that in relationships.
Yeah. Well, isn't
And we
it
don't
Tony Robbins?
review it. Sorry.
Yeah, Tony Robbins, says that, most people take more time and interview more people when they're hiring a housekeeper or an assistant or a secretary or a landscaper. They speak to more people and they ask more questions than they do when they get into a relationship with someone. Most of the time it's proximity, right? Proximity is power, but remember there's good and bad power, right? There's positive and negative, right? So many times it's the proximity. You're having a drink at the pub, you bump into somebody and they say, hey, well, there you go. Now all of a sudden you're dating and then a year, 6 months, a year, 2 years later, you're married. And then you're like, well, how do I ever get together? I don't know. Maybe one, 2 pints,
Yeah.
it is the whole.
And I mean, I'm guilty. I hear you. Yeah, I'm guilty of it, Tony. I mean, my husband and I, like I said, we've been married nearly 25 years now, together 30. And neither of us had a discussion about whether we wanted children or not before we got married. And it turned out that he wanted a football team and I didn't want any. Like something as fundamental as that, and we didn't have that conversation.
Yeah. It's important. Communication is everything.
Yes.
If you're someone that doesn't understand you, doesn't have the same values as you, then it's going to be a lot harder road. Now, you could overcome them, but that's a much more difficult road to overcome. So for those of you who are not in a relationship, just make sure that, it is a semi-hiring process, right? You're looking for the person that you're going to be spending time with, not necessarily the person you're going to marry, because maybe that's just not in your future, not in your plans, but it's certainly someone you're going to spend time with and invest a lot of time with. So make sure it's the right person. And I always say this, I say, really go in and lead with your heart and be true to you, not to overuse the word of authentic, be authentically you. Because remember that your vibe attracts your tribe, right? We've all heard that expression. So if you're showing up as someone other than who you really are, don't be surprised if you attract someone who is not like you.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
Or who is not the person that you want to attract.
Exactly. You're just because they're attracted to the shiny object that you put in front of them that isn't really you.
Yeah.
And then you get somebody and then it's not aligned with your values, you're aligned with who you are. So just be you. And that doesn't mean, you go to a bar and all of a sudden you start showing everybody your scars, your warts and everything else. Right?
Yeah.
But eventually you have to, before it gets into a long-term relationship, you've got to be as authentic and as heart-centered and as vulnerable in a way as possible, not really early on because you don't want to get hurt, you don't want to be in a dangerous situation, but you've got to be, you've got to be who you really are to attract the person you really want, be it man or woman.
That's right. Yeah, because we magnetize through our vibration. So we will magnetize how we're showing up. Yeah, 100%.
So back to Amanda's question about her friend, what's something that they can do to laugh together or to reconnect?
Okay, so something that they can do to reconnect and laugh together are, firstly, open the lines of communication. Because if you start laughing at each other without having that connection, it's going to end in disaster. It's going to end in disaster because if you're feeling resentment and hurt to something that your beloved has done and you haven't cleared the air and they start laughing, you're going to assume they're laughing at you.
Yeah, here's a little asterisk. Wait, hold on. Little asterisk here. Don't laugh at your spouse. or your
With
beloved.
them.
Laugh with them, not
Exactly.
them. Kind of a very important distinction. Laugh with
Exactly.
them, not at them.
However, sometimes, even if your intention is that you're laughing with them, if you haven't cleared the air, it will be perceived that you're laughing at them.
Right.
Does that make
Keep in
sense?
mind another footnote. They could be laughing at themselves at a mistake that they've done. Then at that point, you can laugh because you're laughing
Yeah.
with them. Even though it's at them, it's with them.
With them, exactly. But and again, though, if you're in a place in your relationship where you haven't opened the lines of communication and explained your feelings and felt heard, and they felt heard, any form of laughter can trigger. So
Yeah.
it's just about being mindful that the connection piece, you almost have to agree to have fun together. You know, like it's okay for us to laugh at this stuff now. I
Oh, yeah.
used to, and I say it with caution because for a long time in my marriage, we struggled a lot with this. My husband's a comedian. He's hilarious. But every time he cracked a joke, I thought it was at me. And it wasn't. It really wasn't. And so that built up years of resentment. And so while I was supporting others in life coaching before I transitioned directly into relationship coaching, I realized that actually the laughter was a trigger for me. And I hadn't addressed that trigger. And therefore it kept, every time he tried to break pattern with me to change my state with a joke, it would have the opposite effect.
Yeah. Wow. That's a bad trigger to have, laughter. That's a difficult one, right?
Yeah.
Well, that goes back, takes me down a bit of a different road, not a different road, but along the lines of that is it's so important to let things go. So important to forget and let bygones be bygones. Water's under the bridge. You look
Yeah.
at the bridge right now, you look a second later, there's still water, but the water is different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I have this
communicate.
saying that I use with my couples, and I say, what are you choosing? Are you choosing to be right or to be in love?
That's
Which one
right.
is it?
I'd rather be happy than right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And letting
I love
go. Letting
I
go of
love
the ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Because
not
you
not
forget,
letting
don't
ego get in the way, for sure.
Sorry?
Said not letting ego get in the way of your relationship.
That's
Just
right.
so many times that's what it is. Yeah.
And
So
then you forget what the argument was about in the first place. Like, you're so
that's
busy.
and then you're just angry at something you don't even remember what you were angry at. So
Yeah.
you make up other things, or you make that argument even worse. So I'm a fan. Something that I've been told ever since we got married is by my wife's Aunt Linda. She said, one secret to marriage is never go to bed upset at each other, right? And the reason being, and I kind of go through the whole thing. If we're don't handle, even with anyone, if I have a disagreement with someone, if I've got to handle it within 2 or 3 days. I can't let it fester much longer because it's just going to, you start looking into things that weren't really there and overthinking and creating problems that were never there. Then they become real problems, and then you've got real issues. So communication is everything. If you've got an issue, maybe you can't deal with it today because of time, because of situation, because whatever's going on. Maybe you do sleep on it, even though I'm not a fan of that, and you handle it in the morning, depending on what tempers are like. So it's very important to do that. And to just add something on to Amanda's question, listen, not that you can do it right now, but go to a comedy club, go to, watch a funny movie. My wife and I exchange funny memes and funny posts that we see online all the time, right? I text them to me, whatever it is, just, laugh.
Just laugh. And I did mention as well, there's something called laughing yoga. You can actually look that up.
Very good.
Yes.
Hey.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's crazy. And again, something as simple as TikTok. Like,
Actually, so I think Betty in here says they could watch TikTok. They could TikTok together.
yeah,
So to your point, yeah,
TikTok, exactly. It's hilarious.
yeah,
Hilarious. Yeah.
yeah. So
What's one?
Betty,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
What's one strategy for a couple that has lost polarity to regain it? Great question, Betty. Great question. So, if I can just explain to people who aren't familiar with what polarity is first, and then I can explain this question. So, polarity is we have energies. All of us, men and women, have energies, and the energies are masculine and feminine energies, and they will determine how you operate. So a masculine energy is very focused, driven, single focused, results orientated, and the feminine energy is very in flow. So has flexibility and fluidity, is able to manage and maneuver many things at once. And so we, as humans, we have both energies within us. The key is what is our authentic balance. So I found before I started doing this work that I was operating at an imbalance in my masculine. So I was, and the numbers are arbitrary, but it's just to illustrate the point. I was operating at around 80% masculine, 20% feminine. And my husband is very masculine. So when we got together, my natural authentic balance is around 80% feminine, 20% masculine. So he's high in masculine, I'm high in feminine, so we connect. So that's the polarity, because opposites, masculine and feminine, will pull together. Plus and negative will pull together. And then what's been happening in a lot of relationships, particularly when women have children, particularly if they're entrepreneurs, they have their own businesses, over time, the lack of polarity is when he stays in his masculine and she rises in her masculine. And then the polarity, there's no attraction. You repulse each other. So then what happens is the intimacy and passion goes. It's like being with a roommate. It's like being with a buddy.
Yeah.
And so
That might have been good in college, but it ain't good now, right?
exactly. I love your jokes. So thank you. I appreciate those. And so the question was, what do you do when the polarity goes? Often when the polarity goes is when one or both of you are protecting yourselves. So you're frightened. One or both of you are protecting yourselves. And if one or both of you are protecting yourselves, that means that you're both feeling threatened. And so you're going to get your guard up. So the key to improving the polarity, so what makes a woman drop back into her feminine, what keeps a man up in his masculine, the key to this is making sure that you are open and honest with your communication and vulnerable with each other.
So important.
The woman has to feel she can trust you to keep her safe. If she feels safe, and the way a man does that is by making sure she is heard and she's seen. So it comes back to listening to learn and looking her in the eye. When you speak to a woman, look her in the eye. Speaking to a woman like this is just game over. Guys can do that because they are mainly single focused. Most of the time they're in masculine zone. So have you ever noticed guys can have a really great conversation doing something together? Like they can go driving together, they can doing sports together, watching sports together, computer games. they can have a really great conversation. Have you ever seen a woman have an in-depth conversation watching TV or playing computer games? She just
Now
can't,
that you mentioned it, nope.
she can't do it. She has to sit in a circle with all her girlfriends looking at each other because we're gatherers. We want to keep together. And so, and we need eye contact. So eye contact is really, really, really important, and listening. And that way she will feel safe, and therefore she won't criticize her man, because criticizing your man ends up with him feeling attacked, and therefore he puts his guard up and is protecting himself. A man
Yeah.
can only protect one person at a time. They're single focused. So they can only protect either themselves or you. And if they feel you are attacking them, they will protect themselves because they've got a hunt.
Yeah, that's a good distinction. One of the things that comes to mind when you're saying that as well is, and the man needs to know that he can be vulnerable with the woman and have that trust factor. So if a man is vulnerable with you, just know that, you've got to kind of respect that and not put it in that filing cabinet that says, "Ooh, I'm gonna grab this later." Because the minute you grab that later, when he was vulnerable with you and he shares something with you, if you pull that back out later and you use it on him, never going to happen again. Just an FYI. So
Yeah.
I'm just
Huge,
going to put
huge, huge
Yeah.
piece, Tony. Thank you. It's something Sage Robbins said to me once, and she said it a few times. Tony Robbins' his wife, and she said, "Take care of the boy, and the man will rise."
Yes, absolutely.
Nurture him. Just nurture him. If he's coming to you and he's vulnerable, that says you've done a great job. That's a compliment because he feels safe enough to come to you. Do not abuse that privilege. It's an absolute privilege. You do not tease him. You do not hold that against him the next time you're pissed. Because
that's the worst thing. Otherwise, because I'll tell you what, that's, it'll be a long time before you ever hear something that sensitive again. And to pivot from there, I will say that the one thing that's important as well, and this goes, by the way, for both men and women collectively, is your home is supposed to be your sanctuary, somewhere you go that's safe, a safe space. So if a man doesn't feel, or a woman doesn't feel comfortable at home, that's like their den, that's where they can be safe from the outside world, right? If they don't feel safe at home, then they're not going to want to be home. It's important to make that house a home, just like, where home is where you go for safety. So if, that's one of the things that growing up, home, that didn't always feel safe for me, right? So it's something that it's important to know that it's a place where you can go and feel safe. Just like if an animal gets hurt, it runs back then because it knows it's safe there. If someone is hurt, they're hurt at work, they run home because they feel it's safe there. So it's important to keep that home as a safe space, right? It's important to keep that home as a safe space. And even if, when you're having a serious conversation, or you're having an argument, having a discussion, try to have it not at the kitchen table. Try not to have it in the bedroom. Try not to have it wherever you spend a lot of time, because there's going to be energy in that place. To talk about energy, I know you'd say you do a little bit of energy healing. I really believe that there's certain things that you don't do, and there's certain words you don't say, and if you're going to one of the things I say all the time, and those who watch me, I've spoken about relationships on multiple occasions with different people here. One of the things that I believe in is that you should never people avoid arguments all the time. And this feed in, by the way, to the next question that Betty has. She actually, I'm going to answer kind of Carla. Carla says marriage is like a garden. You need to water it every day. Yes. And I'm going to footnote that for a second. And then Betty says, how do you keep the romance alive in your marriage of 17 and 25 years respectively. I'll say this. I tell people all the time, don't avoid the conversation, because if you avoid the conversation, it becomes a discussion. Don't avoid the discussion, because if you avoid the discussion, it becomes an argument.
Yes.
Don't avoid the argument, because if you avoid the argument, it could become a fight.
Yeah.
Don't avoid the fight, because if you avoid the fight, it becomes a war.
Yes.
And then when you get into war, then there's casualties everywhere. Right? So very important. Communication is everything. It starts with that. Don't avoid the conversation. Yep. And if you do avoid it, don't avoid the discussion. And if you avoid that, so there's so many levels of opportunity to kind of come back together. So to answer your question, I guess I'll go first with it. That's how you do it, is communication. It's laughter. It's mutual respect. It's if we do have an argument, and we don't really fight, but if you do fight, I hear people arguing and fighting. Sometimes I'm like, wow, so vicious. How can you say certain things to people like that you're in love with, that you married, that that you have children with? Now, granted, I know that things fall apart, and none of us are immune to it. But just if you're gonna have that fight, if you're gonna have this, be kind. For God's sakes, be kind. Bad words, hurtful words. We grew up with that limerick. I guess it's called a limerick. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Holy cow, nothing could be further from the truth. The bones and sticks hurt you, but you heal. The words, not so much. So be careful the words that you use.
It's so interesting, because I know for sure that I have been the bitch from hell in my marriage and used harmful words. I know that to be true, and I know that I had to let go of that and work through that. And that's how I know I can help people with these, because having been through it and put my man through it, and knowing that you can come out of it, I can really relate to how people can get to that point where they're resentful and they're fighting, because the fundamental is the lack of communication, and the fundamental to that is the lack of understanding between you. Make assumptions that you both, he said that, so that's what it means, and actually that wasn't what he meant. She did that, so that's what she means, and that isn't what she meant. She's screaming at him because she's scared, not because she's attacking him. He's ignoring her, not because he doesn't want to be with her, but because he needs time to himself to transition. Can you see how things can be misinterpreted? So 100% communication is the key. The second answer to Betty's question is, how do you get the romance back? You have to schedule it in. You have to make the effort and put the effort in and put time in for it. Date nights, have things to look forward to. And I know with coronavirus at the moment, going out is a no-no, but you can still have date nights. You can still go for a walk and have a picnic. You can still have that safe time. Things like the other day, my husband surprised me. He did a whole beautiful bath with candles and all my essential oils and the right music. And it was just such a lovely gift. Just that kind of, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be a lot of effort. It just has to be some time and effort scheduled just for that. And I actually had a couple that I was working with today, and they were saying, but we've 2 young children, and it's hard because like juggling the homeschooling and the 2 young children and all that. And the husband said, but actually they both go to bed in the afternoon, the children. They both go to bed. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they both go to bed. And he said, actually, that would be a really great time for me and my wife to sit and have some time and invest some time in that relationship, because at that time of the day, neither of us are exhausted.
Yeah.
We can't do it straight on. We can't do it early on because of the way that their work shifts are.
It's tough. It's tough. You know, in the work, my wife's a nurse and she works nights. So yeah, that you're speaking to that. It's kind of weird the way that schedules have to run. So you just got to make an effort, right? It's about putting forth, you know, you got to make, and the effort's appreciated.
And you've got to appreciate them when they make the effort. Don't take it for granted. You've really got to appreciate it and communicate what you like in romance. Actually ask. I've actually said to my husband, I like baths with candles. I like rose petals. You know, like he did a whole trail of rose petals on, you know, I like all that, but he didn't know that. And I didn't make the assumption that he's a mind reader.
I mean, isn't that the truth? So many times we think, well, you know, we think that our significant other is supposed to be that mind reader. No, well, you're supposed to know that. No, just because that is your model of the world and your experience in the past doesn't mean that that person had the same experience, right?
That's right.
So true. So on point. You know, Carla had a comment in here before saying marriage is like a garden. You need to water it every day. And I said, we're going to put a footnote in it or a check mark, whatever I said. And the reason I did that is because it's not enough to water the garden. Keep in mind that you can also drown a garden. You can overwater a garden, right? And watering isn't enough. It needs to get enough sunlight. Just having enough sunlight isn't enough. Sometimes you got to put a little fertilizer. And sometimes the crap that happens in life is the fertilizer that we need, right? Number one. Number two, yeah. Oh, listen, I have so many analogies to that. It's not even funny. But the other thing that's important to do is you got to mind your garden for the weeds that grow.
Yes.
You've got to weed your garden because you can water your garden. You can fertilize your garden. You can give it enough sun. You can do all of it. You're not weeding your garden. I promise you, weeds will grow, and they will grow much stronger, much faster than the vegetables and the fruits that you're trying to plant in the garden.
Yes.
Negative thoughts will anchor in and take over the space if you allow it.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that I go through this whole thing that I'm not going to go through now, but the reality of it is, if you don't mind your garden, if you're not pulling those weeds when they're small, they become bigger and they're harder to pull. Some of them become trees that overshadow everything. And the weeds start to choke out the plants. And then instead of having this bountiful harvest over the work that you did and the cultivating of the garden and everything that you did to go into it and having a bountiful garden, now you're left with the scraps of whatever the weeds left you. You're left with the scraps of love and attention and kindness and affection that are left after the neglect that the garden had, that your relationship had. So it's important to go in there and trim off the dead ends, pull those weeds, fertilize, water, don't overwater. Be mindful. You got to mind the garden of your relationship like you mind the garden of your mind, which is what the talk is really about, is minding the garden of your mind. If you let the weeds take hold, it's really hard. It's easier to pull them. It's easier to have that. Okay, perfect equation. It's easier to pull that little weed when it's small, or to have that conversation.
Yes.
Or to pull that weed when it's a little taller, or when you're having the discussion. Or when it gets even bigger and you're having an argument, still reasonably, it's harder to pull out.
Yes.
But when it becomes a mulberry tree, which is really a weed, let me tell you, I say that because I had one in my garden. And even though I took it out with a machine, I rented an excavator, I ripped it out. 3 years later, when I dug up the garden, I was still pulling out roots that were still in the ground, and it was still popping up here and there. So, and that's what a war, or that's what a big fight will do. So remember to pull those weeds while they're small. So sorry, I kind of dominated that piece of that conversation.
I love that. Yeah, no, it's so true. It is so true, Tony. You know, and also when those roots are so embedded, it's really hard to get rid of them.
Yeah.
When they run deep, it's really hard to get rid of them.
And that's why you pull them while they're small. You kill the monster while he's small.
Yes, yes. So true. There's something that just came to mind and it just completely went because I was thinking about your analogy. It was, yeah, I
Sorry,
can't.
I do have that tendency of speaking too much here, but
No,
that's okay. This is Tony Talks, right? This is a conversation.
yeah, absolutely. And I love it. I love your analogy. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's so many comments here that I've not been looking at. I'm trying to scan through a couple of them now. Amanda says, how does she stay in her feminine? And she also asks, how does she figure out the percentages of masculine and feminine? I think that you said that in the beginning. That's it's just you're using a number just for explanation purposes, but you can kind of figure out how you're acting and how you show up, and what the balances are. But it's important to try to keep that under control for sure. But she goes on to say, how does she stay in her feminine?
So there is Amanda, there is a way to know whether you're operating in the right balance. And the way that, particularly for women, is that if you're operating with too much masculine most of the time, you will produce more testosterone in your body, and that will cause you to feel stressed and tension. So when I was operating too much in my masculine, I was like this. My body was all
Tense.
uptight and tense. And I actually had neck pain, really bad neck pain. And so when you feel your body tense, Amanda, or you feel stressed, check in. Particularly women, we hold our emotions in our body. So if we are all tense and all like this, we're going to be holding all that emotion stuck. So if you're feeling tense, it's really important for us to move. It's really important for us to free that up. So this is one of the techniques that I use to stay in my feminine. I find the things that give me the most joy are the things that keep me in my feminine. So what is it that you love to do? I love to dance. I love to sing. I have set music that I play every morning to keep me in my feminine. So I use music a lot. For some women, it's art. For some women, it's cooking. For some women, it's creativity. For some women, it's reading. And this brings me really nicely on to when you're in a relationship, if you don't fill your cup up first by doing the things you love to do, if you don't fill up first, you are giving from a place of half empty. And so therefore, it's always going to feel like they're taking from you and you resent them for it. If you give love from a full cup, so it's from the overflow of love, you never feel resentment because you have enough inside of you. You're full of love and abundance. So this is a really good key point, and it's a great question, Amanda, that you absolutely have to stand guard and take care of you first. This is not about being a doormat for your man. Far from it. Men find women who are super, super strong and choose to be vulnerable with them. They don't want a doormat. Would you say that's right, Tony?
My God, that's perfect. I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. And by the way, that's vice versa.
Yes.
Women don't want a man that's going to be a mat as well.
No.
Sometimes, and here's the sad part is that sometimes in relationships, the man or the woman has a tendency of breaking her man down, or her man breaking the woman down so much that makes them the doormat, and then resents the fact that they're doormats. But you did it,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
I know that from personal experience. My mother, growing up, my father was a very difficult man, and there's just a lot of bad things that happened, a lot of pain, and my mom resented that. And now all these years later, they're still married, but she still resents it. She still hasn't let it go, and she resents herself for allowing that to happen. And so, important to set boundaries, important to make sure you take care of yourself, and remember that every single day, whether it be in your relationship, whether with your beloved, your significant other, your business partner, your friends, or with the general public, remember, you are always training people how to treat you based on what you tolerate.
Yes.
Right?
That's
because
right.
in life, you heard Tony Robbins says this all the time, and I love this line from him. In life, you do not get what you deserve. You get what you tolerate.
Yeah.
We're constantly training people and teaching people, showing people how to treat us based on the standards that we set for ourselves.
Yes.
Right? And the standards that we allow other people to treat us as. So just remember to have, just really a self-respect, and don't just remember to be true to yourself. If you're true to yourself and you're loving to yourself and to your significant other, as Tony says, you do at the beginning of a relationship, at the end of a relationship, what you did at the beginning, and there won't be an end. What does that mean? That means dating. That means laughing. That means being kind to each other and laughing together and being flirty. Listen, if I walk by the kitchen right now, my wife's at the kitchen sink on me, they're going to smack her bum, as they say on your side of the pond. Or I'm going to pinch her, and she says, "Stop." And I'm like, I'm not going to stop. Just not.
Why would you? Why would you?
I'll stop, and you'll wonder, why did he stop?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got to keep playfulness in your relationship. Keep that relationship alive because of that. I think that's so important.
I love that. And also, I mean, I did a short video today actually on my Instagram about this. It's about handing back your balls. If your guy's giving you his balls, like, he's got some responsibility there. He does.
Ooh, so I've got something on that. Can I share? Here's the thing. I say this to people all the time. Whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, you're looking at, when we get married, she's gonna, because I know people who they get married and now they don't want the wife to dress provocatively anymore or sexy anymore or whatever. Or the woman says, "Oh, he's like that now. When they get married, he's not going to do that shit anymore." Or he rides a motorcycle, then she gets upset that he goes out riding. Or she likes to go out dancing, then he doesn't want to go out dancing with her, even though he did that before. It's that whole thing to show up as who you want to be. I shared a story of a woman that a friend of mine says, "Come here, you got to take a look at this." And Tony talks about, make a list of everything that you want in a spouse or in a mate. And I go, and she's got like 3 pages, like 75 things. And I'm reading through it. I'm like, look, I think I'm a pretty good dude, but wow. Wow. And I said, and I started going through this. Are you this? No. Do you like to do this? No. Do you like to do that? No. So why are you putting this on the list? If you list, you're going to be miserable and divorced within a year. Right?
Yeah.
So what winds up happening many times is people want to change their spouse after they get married or in a relationship. I'm going to change him. I'm going to change her. Cut that shit out. You fall in love with the person that you met. And, something that I would say, even when I was first dating, I would, you bend, right? You bend you bend your rules, you bend to conform. It's like a relationship is a dance, right? You can't lead all the time. And sometimes you've got to be led and sometimes you lead, and you've got to be malleable and move one way and another. And if you don't, and if you don't just bend and you break for someone, hence put them in her purse, or you allow your woman to emasculate you, to make her happy. And albeit, listen, most of the times it's to make her happy.
Yes, it
is. I know who've been through this. They to make her happy. She's like, okay, fine. Yes, dear. Okay, fine. So I know men that are feminine at home, but like real tough guys on the street. But they're literally, you couldn't believe it. If you saw it, you couldn't believe it. And then but here's the fascinating thing, or the man who doesn't want the woman dressing provocatively anymore. So then now he's pissed off that she's in sweats and hair curlers, you know, right? Now he's upset that she doesn't put on makeup. And now his eyes start to wander to the girl that does dress provocatively, that does put on makeup, and wow, she looks gorgeous, right? So, but now you don't have that at home. Or the woman emasculates her man, and he's no longer that tough man, that masculine man that she wanted and desired. He's just a mess that he created.
Yes.
He's a mess that he created. Now she starts looking, ooh, hey, now that guy, he's got what I want.
Exactly.
But we can be our own worst enemies, right? So stand up for what you want, right? Set your standards and keep your standards.
And be flexible to know that when you grow, that those standards will shift. They're not set in stone. They're not set in stone. And you know, you talked about boundaries and setting boundaries. I believe that you should set boundaries for yourself first. The boundary should be about what you're prepared to accept of yourself first. Because if you haven't figured that out and you're expecting somebody else to respect your boundaries and you don't respect your own.
So on point. Beautifully stated. Love it.
You know?
Beautifully.
And so set your own, because you'll never have to set boundaries for others, because you will just be so congruent with who you are that they will know what your boundary is.
Yeah.
My husband's boundaries have never changed, except when I emasculated him. I did that. And then I wondered why he was being soft, why he wasn't making a decision. What's wrong with you? Why can't you just decide? You know? And actually, sorry?
Because when he did, he was chastised for it.
Exactly. And so when I woke up to that, I realized that actually I had let myself down because I hadn't kept to my boundary. And my boundary is that I entered a marriage wanting to love and respect and be loved and respected. And I stopped doing that for myself and then for him.
Yeah.
And that's where it all went wrong. So be firm with who you are, be comfortable with who you are. And know that you are at choice as to whether you want to be vulnerable or not. And I invite you to be vulnerable, because that takes courage. It's actually easier not to be. But it takes courage to step into that and say, do you know what? I trust you with my heart. I trust you with my heart to take care of it.
Yeah. Well, that's why they say, the joke in the US is that divorce is 50-50.
Yes.
Oh, rather that marriage is, sorry, I messed up the joke. And I say this all the time, by the way, with my wife all the time. She's probably within earshot. I say marriage isn't 50-50. I like to say, but it works out pretty good. She cooks, I eat, I dirty, she cleans. It's great. 50-50 all the way. It's a joke, by the way, ladies. It's a joke. The reality of it is marriage isn't 50-50. Divorce is 50-50.
Yeah.
In most cases.
Yes, it is.
50-50. You've got to show up at 100%. As Tony Robbins says, again, in relationship there, I keep referring back to him because obviously you're a platinum partner with Tony and I'm a trainer with Tony. So Tony's in our mind, right? That a relationship is a place you go to give. You give 100%. So if you give 100%, the other person gives 100%, you got 200%. And if today you show up with 80% and they only show up with 20, you still have 100. Yes. You can still work. But if each of you decides to say, today I'm only going to give 40 and I'm only going to give 30, well, now it's only 70. And because today's a 70, tomorrow I'm like, screw that. Yesterday he came with nothing. Then today I'm just going to show up as a 20. You know what? Screw that. Yesterday this was terrible. I'm going to show up as a 15. Before you know it, you're not even halfway there. So important to go and give, because the more you give, the more, I think it's a Zig Ziglar comment. the more you help people get what they want, the more you're going to get what you want. So the more love you give, the more love you get. And that's the reason.
So true, Tony. And it's all to do with the flow of abundance of love, because if you stop the flow by not giving love, if you don't give it out, it can't come back to you. You actually stop the flow. You have to give so that the abundance of the flow, it's a cycle. It just keeps coming back.
And I'm gonna give you one more, and then I'll go to you to final comment, because this has been going we're at an hour and 5 minutes already. So I apologize for taking so much time, and I apologize for the audience. I try to keep it to an hour. So I will say this though, comment that I said to my mom, and a lot of the bits and snippets that I wind up saying, it comes from conversations with my mom. So, and this is important because I think in relationships, it works out very much the same way. It was end of February, and COVID was already happening, and they were supposed to be coming to spend Easter because they live back in Portugal. They retired. I'm originally from Portugal. They retired and they moved back to Portugal, and they were going to come and visit for Easter and for my birthday, my son's birthday, and everything else. And they couldn't come, so my mom was very sad about it. And aside from my telling her, focus on actually, this was before COVID. And I said, focus on the fact that you're going to be coming to visit. Actually, it was before COVID was a thing. And I said, focus on the fact that you're coming, not the fact that you haven't seen us, not the fact that we're not there, and don't focus on that. And at one point, it was around Valentine's Day. That's what it was. And I said to her, the best thing you can do for us, Mom, for me and for my brother and sister and for your grandkids, is love yourself more.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you love yourself more, you can accept love from others at a deeper level, and you can give your love at a deeper level.
That's
right? So
Yeah.
I just encourage everyone that's out there, love yourself more.
Yes.
Love yourself more, because you'll be able to accept the love more. Because my mom gives and she loves, but when you give it back to her, it feels like it doesn't go all the way in, because she doesn't love herself. Maybe she doesn't find herself deserving of love for whatever demons she's still battling.
Yes. Yeah.
So
That's so true. It's like I was saying before, Tony, if you're giving from a half empty vessel, you run out. You run out and you get exhausted, and you have to top yourself up first in order to give. So
listen, with that said, I'm sorry that we didn't get to so many of the comments, that you guys had so many comments and questions. I promise, either Dimple, would you be okay with coming back into the comments and responding to some of these, and I'll do the same? Okay, great. We'll respond to these comments along the way. So I apologize for not getting to it, but we got so into the conversation here. So, and I'll come back and read all these comments. I haven't even read all of them because we've been really just flowing here. So with that said, I want to give you the last word, and and I'm going to put some things in here. So obviously, Dimple is she is a life and she's a love and relationship coach. So she does that. She's also an author. So she's a dynamic individual. If you want to reach out to Dimple, I'm just going to give you her website. So we'll go, here's her website for you guys to go and check out Dimple and who she is and what she does in all of her glory.
Yay. Come find me. And also, I have some fantastic, great videos on my Instagram as well that are just so much fun. All free content. Have a great free gift on my website. Have a look. It's just dimple.love. That's it. Dimple.love. www.dimple.love.
And here's her Instagram as well.
And my Instagram is the Love Coach Dimple.
Yeah, I've already got it up. There she is. Instagram, the Love Coach Dimple. Love it, love it, love it. And as you guys already know, you can also. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Wait, I'm doing the wrong thing here. You can also find me, obviously, on Instagram, Tony Rodriguez 2.0, and also on our YouTube channel. I'd love for you to get on there and subscribe. Let me just put that in here as well. So tell us, what are you excited about? What are you working on now, Dimple?
Oh, I'm super excited at the moment, Tony. I have just launched a brand new coaching course called Fix Your Marriage in 40 Days. So that has just launched. We've got a waiting list for that. And then I have my VIP one-to-one clients, and I also have my 8 weeks from pain to passion course. So super excited about that. Lots of new stuff coming, and I'm writing my 3rd book at the moment. So which is called How to Speak Man and How to Speak Woman. So
nice. I love it. I love it. So check out Dimple. Go to dimple.love. Check her out on the Love Coach Dimple on Instagram and see what else she's doing. Take a look at her, buy her book, work on her program, pre-order her book, whatever's available. Dimple's amazing. And Dimple, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Sorry that we are an hour and 10 minutes. So we're 10 minutes over. So thank you for being patient. And everyone that was here watching, thank you for watching. Thank you for your questions and your comments. And we will get back to answering those. And if this video resonated with you, by all means, click share. Share the YouTube link, share the Facebook link, or you can just tag your friends on here as well and welcome back in. So again, Dimple, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony.
Coming on here, and just hold on 1 minute while I close it up. And again, thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support. This is episode 98, by the way. We're approaching that century mark really quickly. We have 2 more days for that, and we'll see if we can get a surprise guest on here. So thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you. Remember, my friends, that life is not about how many times you fall. It's about getting up after every fall. You fall down 7 times, you get up 8, and the same thing is true in relationships. And remember that it's in falling that we learn, it's in getting up that we grow. And every single time we fall, we have the opportunity to get up and grow. I appreciate you, my friends. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you tomorrow. Ciao for now.
Bye.